Okay, welcome back to the channel. My name's Tom Youngs, your best mate, and this is the whiteboard of truth. And today we're going to be talking about how humans learn. Because if you run or are interested in growing or starting or scaling an education business, you might be a coach, you might be a consultant, you might be just a teacher, a guide, as I kind of call myself, then you need to understand how to actually help humans learn. You need to understand how humans learn. And so we're going to be talking today about pedagogy, which is a very odd sounding word, but that's what we're going to be talking about today. So let's put 30 minutes on the clock, and you've got to be patient with me because I was sick. Guys, I've been sick for like 2 weeks. I did an ultra marathon, my first ever ultra marathon race 2 weeks ago, and did around 65 kilometers over the course of 12 hours. My immune system wasn't ready for that. And so I've had basically like a chest infection for like 2 months, or 2 weeks. Hence why you haven't seen the whiteboard of truth for a couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm going to probably cough a few times. I still got whatever's going on, but I'm heading back to the gym after this. So back into it today. I've had 2 weeks off, but I'm starting a new project called Project Wolverine. Yeah, going to be back to it. But anyway, we're back at the whiteboard of truth, and we've got 29 minutes now. So I'm a doctor technically, and I've got it on my bank cards. It says Dr. Thomas Youngs. Some of you will understand, or some of you will know that I used to be a dentist about 12 years ago now. So I qualified as a dentist in 2013. So it's 2025 now. So 12 years ago. I qualified as a dentist. I was a biomedical scientist first, and then I did postgraduate dentistry, and I specialized in cosmetic dentistry. I was a dentist for 2 years, and then I realized I hated the lifestyle or the potential of where that lifestyle could go, and so I ended up quitting, and like, that's a story for another day. But the lesson here is that I found out recently that the Latin word doctore, doctor, actually the definition is teacher. And so it wasn't until kind of early-ish or more recently in the 19th century that the word doctor was associated with medics. So previously it was associated with people who had done PhDs, doctors across dentistry, chiropractors, just having doctors who have, doctors were essentially teachers. So they were teachers because they were essentially the students of an expertise. And so we're like, ultimately, I'm a teacher. I've always been a teacher. In my first 2 years as a dentist, I was kind of known. I was known within the industry as being a specialist in a very specific type of procedure, sculpting and making teeth look like teeth. I was like one of the first people to be posting stuff on Instagram back 10 years ago when Instagram didn't even have videos. I was posting pictures of like teeth and case studies and stuff. And so I've always for some reason I've always been attracted to, or I love teaching. I love like learning stuff and then helping other people implement stuff. And so what we're going to be talking about today is actually the technicalities of implementing stuff. And now I know you can't see that because of the fucking light, but there is absolutely I cannot figure out I haven't got enough room where I am. So we've got the whiteboard of truth, and then, yeah, in the office of destiny, we don't have enough room to put that light that isn't going to put some reflection on there. So you're going to have to wait for me to tell you what these words say, because I know you can't see them. If you want to be an educator, if you want to be a guide, you need to understand how humans learn, because how humans learn is ultimately what leads to mastery, the mastery cycle, and it's how they acquire skills and actually get better. And if you want to be able to get client results, and you want to get the best client results in your industry, which is my intention, you need to be able to know how people learn, because it's not about just telling people what to do. If they don't understand why they need to do it, they will never adopt the skill to the level of a master. And then when they get results, they will be there being like, great, I got results. what I've built here is a life that I hate. So I get this all the time. I get a lot of clients who, or people in my audience who come to me and they've built a business based on someone else's model, and at no point have they questioned, okay, this is like, is this what I actually want? And so what they end up doing is they just follow blindly, just steps and a checklist. They get something done, and then they end up building this golden handcuff situation where they built something that is like, potentially bringing in a lot of money, and then they hate their lifestyle because of the downsides of it. So let's talk about the 5 main areas of how humans learn, how you can help your clients move faster, and how you can also learn faster. Okay, right. Let me take a little bit of sip of this beautiful South Downs natural mineral water. Sparkling. Okay, so the first part to pedagogy and how humans learn is sequencing. So really, ultimately, this is about education order matters. If you get education in the wrong order, if you give someone a list of things to do and they are in the wrong order, then they ultimately won't be able to fulfill on the actual outcome of what the steps are supposed to achieve. So this is all about giving the right lesson at the right time. So in the types of businesses that we have, education businesses, our job is really simple. We're trying to get someone from point A over to point B. And this process is called the transformation. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get someone from A to B, transformation, and we do this with a client success timeline. So a client success timeline is a series of milestones. So milestone A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many milestones to get them to the ultimate promise of the outcome of your offer. So for me, for example, I'll use my business as an example. So my promise is that I will help business coaches and consultants get to 100K per month over the course of 1 to 3 years, and there'll be a number of checkpoints over that course of time. But initially, my promise is I'll get you to your first or next 20K monthly milestone. But the end outcome is eventually to get them to 100K per month, which we're going to be talking about at the end here, which is around motivational design. So the end outcome that I want to get them to is that. But the promise that I make is I'm going to get you to your first or second 20K monthly milestone. Now, for them to get there, there are a series of things that I need them to understand, implement, test, and then retest based on their own preferences and constraints. We'll talk about this in a couple of these different areas as well. But if you skip a step, so I'll give you a really easy analogy here. So video editing, you wouldn't teach someone how to do really fancy edits, cuts, transitions if they didn't have the skill to upload a file into the actual software. Right, so there's the first fundamental skill is, okay, let's upload a file into Final Cut Pro, Premiere, whatever. And then that's when, okay, the next sequence is, okay, well, how do we actually set up a timeline to be able to edit? You wouldn't just go into okay, here's how you do the fancy cuts, because they'll be like, what the fuck? I don't know what this is, how this works. I don't know. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that everything is sequential. So when you're doing this for your clients, put some fucking thought into this. This is over about a year ago, I made a big assumption that the typical education kind of accelerator mentorship programs were structured just pretty shit. And what I did was, when I launched Scale 20 nearly a year ago, I made it so that all of the checkpoints, clients had to demonstrate that they have completed a bunch of checkpoints, what I call proof of skill implementation. So I get them to fill in a form that makes sure that they have completed, essentially as a micro checklist, and then they are not allowed to get to the next stage until they have demonstrated that they have acquired the skill knowledge, implemented the actual infrastructure, and then I give them the opportunity to move on to the next thing. Now, what that does is that minimizes or attempts to minimize the feeling of overwhelm and this feeling of fuck, I don't know what to focus on. Because what happens typically, and I've had this with mentors, you just get given a fucking long ass course of hundreds of videos, And then, of course, you start rinsing through them. And of course, you start skipping some because you're like, I really like the sound of this one. So you miss a few things. And then what ends up happening is people just go through these courses and then they've missed probably 50% of the information. They don't know where to start. They don't know where to actually implement. And so the key is giving your clients you cannot proceed to this next step until you've completed these steps. Really cool way of doing this in that these platforms allow you to do it. So I use Skool for my my resource hub, and what I do is I don't give people the opportunity to get to the next stage, to the next level, until they've proven to me with a proof of skill implementation checklist that they've done it, and then we manually unlock the next step for them. This has been really cool. This also gamifies things and keeps this fun. And this is what we'll talk about over here when it comes to the final thing. So that's about sequencing. You need to make sure things are done in the right sequence. Second is scaffolding. Okay, so the analogy here is you need to give the people that you work with training wheels to start off with. Obviously, when kids start to learn how to ride a bike, you don't just give them a bike. You give them a bike with a couple of stabilizers, training wheels, so they literally cannot fall over. And what that's to do is to give them the opportunity to get into their system just the act of being on a bike, holding onto handlebars and pedaling. And so once they've got that going, they've got the motion going, then, okay, let's increase the demand, increase the challenge by taking the training wheels off. And you're obviously going to hold them. You're going to hold them whilst they first start to ride a bike. But then eventually they're like, okay, well, I know I'm supposed to hold onto the handlebars. I know my feet have got to be on the pedals. And then it's a case of let's keep going. Let's keep going and trying to get you there. So the analogies or the examples here in our case, if we have education businesses, we want to give the people we work with extra support to implement new skills and be able to understand how to become a master in a certain skill by giving them extra support. So we do these with a few different resources. Templates. So we're giving them a structure of okay, for example, for us, I know how to structure a viral short form video. It has to have a hook, has to open a curiosity loop, it's got to have a main body, then it's got to have a CTA at the end. General structure, and I can give them a template that's like, hey, a sentence here, a sentence here, a few sentences here, a sentence here, and then give them some examples of my content or other creators' content to show them, okay, this is how we create a viral piece of content. So that's templates. The next would be checklists. Okay, have you done step A, B, C, D, E, F, G when implementing a new system? So I'll go back to short form content. So someone who has never made short form content before, or videos, for example, if they've never made a video, there is a ton of little micro steps that they need to be able to do to be able to then to get that video actually published on their Instagram page. You know, all the way through from ideation, scripting, putting their script onto a teleprompter, reading the script, filming, testing that the mic's on and it's not unplugged, pressing record, actually then getting the file from the camera onto the computer, sending the file to an editor, briefing the editor, then the editor sending it to a content manager or for you to get scheduled to post. There's all of those little steps are micro steps in a check that can become a checklist. And so what we want to give the people that we work with as much of a I call them micro checklists. So we have a general playbook of okay, this is the strategy, this is what we're trying to achieve, this is the outcome that we're trying to achieve, and then these are the steps that you've got to take to get to that final outcome, which the final outcome would be to post a video on Instagram. But that checklist, that micro checklist, might have 20 to 30 different steps on it. Then we have swipe files. These are examples of good or potentially even bad outcomes. So again, using the example of short form content, I can give my clients a file with examples of high quality content that works well at getting attention, building authority, and also building trust. And so we can literally just give them a cheat code by hey, here's a bunch of content that works. Go study it. That's the key with this, is that the swipe files need to be positioned as a reference for people to use to be able to make their own thing. So swipe files, then the next would be just video demos. So showing people how to do things with a demo. This could be, you could consider this a demo, but showing people tactically. So for example, I could show on Friday last week, I showed did a Loom video run through for my clients of exactly how I make a very specific type of short form piece of content where I call it authority jacking. And I took them through my exact workflow of like, hey, this is how I find the ideas. This is how I save the idea. This is how I send the idea. This is how I script the idea. This is how I script the video. This is how I send it to my editor. And I took them through step by step. It was like a 8-minute video. And I showed them how I do things. Okay, so that's scaffolding, which is giving people the training wheels early on. Next is, which you can't see, is feedback loops. And this ultimately is around the mastery cycle. So you can't see this, but this is the cycle of actions that you need to take to become a master at a certain skill. And just a reminder here, mastery is supposed to take years. Like if you ask any master at any skill, true mastery takes fucking years, if not a decade plus. And I think it was, I don't know if it was Stephen Kotler, no, not Stephen Kotler, the dude that did the outliers and the idea around 10,000 hours being the amount of time that you needed to input into a skill to become a master at it. Here's how the feedback loop works. So first you need to, number one is learning the actual thing. So, okay, what is, like, so short form content, what are all of the things that I need to do to know? What are all of those steps? Then you need to go and try it. So number two is try. You need to actually try by having a go. And just a reminder, like when you do the thing for the first time time you do it, it will be shit because everyone's is shit. And that is because you are not a master yet. So you need to get over the fear of the first few things being shit. And I have a really simple rule for this, and this is the rule that I've used for my entire kind of like career, which is the rule of 100. The rule, I don't know if of 100. So I give this as a challenge to my clients. I say, hey, look, like if you're doing something for the first time, get to 100 reps. So that could be 100 short form pieces of content. That could be 100 YouTube videos. Get to 100, and in the process of making those first 100, you are going to just naturally, incrementally get better. You're going to get slicker at the process. You're going to figure out what works and what doesn't. And then once you've made those 100 units, you're going to look back and then you're going to analyze and say, okay, this worked. That didn't fucking work. Let's not do that again. And these like 5 things really, really popped. And what you can then do, and this is what all of the best creators in the world do, they take those 5, or they take their, whatever the top kind of 10% of pieces of content, which are called outliers. Typically 1 in 10 I found with my content is an outlier. I'll take that and then I'll double down on that and analyze, why did it win? What was it about this piece of content that won? How can I take the framework of how that content has won and put that to a different topic, for example? How can I take the reason why this piece of content won and give another idea an opportunity of winning as well? So once we've tried, we then get feedback. So that's part of the process of, okay, why did this work? Why didn't it work? Or what didn't go well? What could get better? This is where being in a network of people, having other people, having mentors to look at the stuff that you do, give you feedback. This is why this is so important. Because otherwise you're kind of like, you can be stabbing in the dark. The best way that I've done this recently is I've given my clients a suite of AI-powered assistants. So I've made a bunch of custom GPTs that have been, I've engineered them with my unique mechanisms, frameworks, and playbooks. And I'll give you an example of one where I've made a magnetic messaging GPT where I have taken all of my marketing frameworks that I use, my cult brand blueprint, the authority diamond, the 5 horsemen of elite marketing, and I've taken those playbooks and I've put them into a custom GPT, and I've engineered the GPT to allow my clients to input a script, a first version of a script, and it then will give them, it'll rank their script on all of the different areas that we are looking for to create content that is magnetic and repellent, builds authority, builds trust, and has a high chance of getting reach. And so it acts as a filter, and it'll literally rank on all of these things and then give feedback and recommendations on how my clients can improve their scripts. It's fucking sick. So I've instead of me doing the feedback, the AI version of me, it's one of my Tom AI assistants, does that feedback for my clients, and frankly it does it better than I'd ever be able to do it. Which is, I have to put my hands up and say, there are instances where Tom AI has been crushing it way faster than real Tom, or way better than real Tom. My clients are loving using all of my AI, call it the AI scale kit. Okay, so feedback, get feedback. Then number 4 is adjust. You need to adjust to you need to look at the feedback and be like, okay, what do I need to do differently? You then do something differently. And then the final part to the mastery loop, you fucking do it again, mate. You do it again. You just do it again. And you do this cycle over and over and over and over again. And that is how you become a master. Okay, so that's feedback loops. Number 4 is active learning. Humans learn fastest by doing, actually taking action, okay? And I have a couple of different principles that I use for myself and my clients to really get in my clients' heads that the fastest way for them to get a result is by fucking taking action and getting something out there. So the first kind of rule, and this is really the core fundamental principle of how I help my clients, is FAFO, fuck around and find out. And this is really, it's super simple. The more you fuck around, the more you try things out, the more you test things out in your market, with your skills, with your tools, to your audience, the faster you're going to get feedback. Going back to the mastery cycle, the faster you can adjust and the faster you can fucking try again. And so the biggest thing that I try and, just get into my clients is that you have to have this mindset of fuck around and find out. I'm going to figure out by actually making the test myself. And so when my clients ask me questions sometimes and they're looking for me to give them permission to make a decision, I always go to them. I'm like, what do you think you should do? That's always my default, because I will give them my recommendation, my answer, my feedback and perspective, but I want them to understand that the fastest way for them to get to mastery is by fucking around and finding out and getting things done in their market, with getting answers that are relatable to them from the actual people that potentially could buy from them. Not from me, who doesn't know their market, doesn't know their ideal, like their perfect future client, avatar, doesn't know all of these things. That's why fuck around and find out is the key fundamental principle in Scale 20. Secondly, just behind this is people get caught in this loop at the adjustment stage. So what they end up doing is they get paralyzed by analysis, and they literally will just stop making progress because they think the next thing has to be more perfect, or potentially even worse, they think it has to actually be perfect. And that's bullshit. Because, and I've learned this, shout out to Dan Martell here. I learned this a couple of years ago when I read his book, whatever the fuck his book's called. I've literally got it there. I can't read it. So 80% done is 100% fucking awesome. 80% done is 100% fucking awesome. So what that means is when you have got something done to 80%, ship it, get it out, post it, share it, send the fucking thing, get the project out, launch the project. 80% done, 100% fucking awesome. This is what, because people are trying to get to 100%, and that never happens ever. Business is all about an evolution. So we always just start with a beta, like what is the like fucking beta version of this? Then we have version 1, version 2, version 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's just like ChatGPT 1, 2, 3, 4, and we just launched 5 last week. 80% done, 100% fucking awesome. If it's 80% done, ship it, get straight back into trying again, learning, trying, feedback, adjust, get into the mastery cycle. Okay, finally, the final part to pedagogy and learning is motivational design. This is something that I feel like I've done pretty well at with my business in Scale 20. And so this is how it works. We want to always be providing our students, our clients, with a really clear vision of the next step and where they can go after. And so for me, when I work with people, I take people from, typically around 10K per month, and they're kind of stuck at 10K per month. And I love working with people who want to get to 100K per month. But my job is to help them get to either their first 20K or their next 20K monthly income goal. And so what I do is I've turned those milestones into a reward process. Here's how I do it in CreatorLaunch. So I haven't got my keys on me, but I use climbing carabiners, they're currently getting made, as a reward. So about 7 years ago when I was living in France, I bought a key ring and had a carabiner on, and this was, a really kind of an amazing time in my life. I was living in the French Alps, had a lot of freedom. I was a driver, like literally, I was like an airport taxi driver for a bit. This was a couple of years after I quit being a dentist, and I really felt like I had had an incredible time. And I bought this key ring, and I had this carabiner. And for me, a carabiner, for any of you guys that don't know, it's a climbing tool. And for me, it really signifies the act of like help. And so when a carabiner is typically used for like belaying when you're helping someone rock climb. And so for me, like the feeling of having like a carabiner was this idea of like helping people get to their next step, and this feeling of like support. And so what I've done is that for your 20, 40, 60, 80 or 100K milestones, you're going to get a specific key ring that signifies to that person that they are the type of entrepreneur who has got to this level. And those are the milestone rewards that I have. And so I've thought about this a lot, and that was a meaningful kind of thing for me. People have, Russell Brunson has got the ClickFunnels, I think they're vinyl records or like records awards. I frankly wanted something that was more personal to me and a bit more, honestly, just a little bit less like flashy. And, I wanted my clients to have something that every single day, when they use their keys every single day, they get a reminder of the level of entrepreneur that they're at. And so that to me is like, I think that's really cool. And so that's what I've got. Another way to do this, which is really important, which is I'm launching very soon, is dashboards. So giving your people a tangible and visual to see where they're at with relation to your customer success or client success timeline. And so I've made my first kind of software, which is a KPI dashboard, and AI-powered insights and recommendations dashboard. And this is just going to be for what my clients are going to get. And it's something that I could charge $100 a month for easily, but they're going to get it for free as being part of Scale 20. And then the final one is behavior awards. So what I do is I reward good behavior and the clients who are fulfilling all of the behavior expectations that I have of them. Every quarter, I do quarterly awards. So I reward people who have done hit revenue milestone, personal brand, and then MVP, so most valuable player for the quarter. So I've got 3 big awards that I use to keep people engaged. Motivational design is all about keeping people engaged during this process, because people people inevitably can, if you do not have these systems in place, they will drop off. If they don't see, oh, what is my next milestone? What do I get from getting there? They're just going to drop off. So yeah, okay, that is how humans learn. And yeah, if you want to understand like how I actually help kind of clients put this into practice, I'll put another video here for you to go watch. Go check it out. That was sick. I will see you in the next one.